Elementi costitutivi del veicolo, manutenzione ed uso.
Constitutive elements of the vehicle. Maintenance and use. Stability and road holding. Driving behaviors and precautions are constituent elements of the vehicle classified as active safety. Those organs that serve to prevent the occurrence of road accidents. These include tires, brakes, suspensions. It is therefore necessary to regularly provide for periodic maintenance and prompt repair or replacement in case of inefficiency. To prevent accidents, we must pay attention to the transparency and cleanliness of the windows using the wiper to clean the windshield in case of accumulation of dust and avoid the presence of charms or stickers. To highlight greater traffic safety, check that the liquid to clean the windows is always present in the tank of the window cleaning device, and also check the state of wear of the wiper blades, replacing them if necessary. Tires. The tire, generally called a tire or rubber, is the element that is mounted on the wheels, also called rims, and allows the vehicle to adhere to the road. The tire consists of several parts which can be summarized in: tread that the air in contact with the asphalt generally is made of durable rubber. Reinforcement structure made of very thin and strong steel cables and at the same time flexible. Side has the function of protecting the tire from impacts that cause damage to the carcass or canvas structure, which guarantees resistance to inflation pressure. Tires are one of the most important parts of active vehicle safety. It is therefore essential to use only tires of the size provided for by the vehicle type approval, indicated in the registration certificate to ensure greater safety. It is important that the same tires are used on the wheels of the same axle, not only in size, but also in type and design, and it could be useful to periodically reverse the position of the tires, so as to wear them all equally over time, since the front tires and hindquarters do not normally wear out in the same way. During our guide, we now talk about tire inflation pressure. And what does the underestimation of this aspect entail? We immediately point out a pitfall in the quizzes. We pay attention that the pressure is independent of the type of substance used to reach the desired value. Having said that, first of all you need to check that the tire inflation pressure is that recommended by the manufacturer, also periodically checking the pressure of the spare wheel. The correct tire inflation pressure depends on the vehicle load and the number of passengers carried. It must therefore be adapted to the weight conditions of the vehicle. Tire inflation pressure can be detected by an automatic detection system, which increases safety for vehicles that are equipped with them. On the other hand, for vehicles not equipped with this system, the pressure must be checked when the tire is cold in order not to have a false detection by the temperature, since insufficient tire inflation pressure increases friction and also fuel consumption. It causes abnormal wear at the edges and compromises stability, especially when cornering. Other aspects to check regularly for tires are the wear conditions on the sides to prevent sudden bursting or deflating. The minimum tread depth, which in the case of a motor vehicle must be 1.6 millimeters, while for motorcycles it must be 1 millimeter. And finally we have to replace the tires after a few years, even if they are not worn, to prevent failures due to an aging process. Tire types. The tires can be of two types, with an inner tube called tube or without an inner tube called tubeless. In tube tires, the inner tube encloses the compressed air to obtain an adaptation and suspension effect of the vehicle from the ground between the rim and the tire. By tubeless, we mean a tire in which the inflation air or gas is retained inside by the rubber and steel structure alone and therefore does not have the classic air chamber. In the event of a puncture of tubeless tires, deflation is slower than those with an inner tube, thus giving the possibility to continue driving, stopping as soon as possible to repair the damage. So be careful in the quizzes. In the tubeless tires, do not need to remove a stuck nail right away. Once we have safely stopped, we can repair the damage with self-galvanizing strip or patch from the inside. Let's now see snow chains, thermal winter tires, and studded tires. Snow chains must only be installed on the drive wheels, i.e. those connected directly to the engine, and must only be used in case of snow on the roadway, as driving with chains on a snow-free road can cause vibrations and damage to the suspension. Attention, on the other hand, that those who use non-approved snow chains can be punished as if they did not have one. Thermal tires. In addition to snow chains, there are also thermal tires. In their case, however, it is advisable to mount them on all wheels.
Infine vediamo gli pneumatici chiodati, che vanno anch'essi montati su tutte le ruote, però possono essere usati limitatamente ad un predeterminato periodo dell'anno.
It is advisable to park the vehicle on stable horizontal ground, activate the parking brake and engage the first gear or reverse, and then get all the passengers out of the vehicle, placing them off the road for safety reasons. At this point, we can begin the procedure for replacing the wheel with a few simple steps. Slightly loosen the fixing bolts even before lifting the vehicle. Fix the jack in a point of the vehicle side member that is close to the wheel to be replaced and lift the car. Finish loosening the bolts and insert the new wheel. Tighten the bolts slightly with the vehicle raised. Lower the vehicle and finally complete the tightening of the fixing bolts. Attention, just as when replacing a wheel using the jack, you must avoid getting under the vehicle. Furthermore, we must bear in mind that the maximum permissible speed when driving with the spare wheel is 80 km per hour.
ABS.
During our driving, we can find ourselves in the situation of having to make an emergency braking with the risk of wheel locking and uncontrolled sliding of the vehicle on the asphalt, as the vehicle no longer responds to our steering wheel maneuvers. ABS is an electronic anti-lock system of the wheels that makes braking safer because it prevents the wheels from locking, allowing you to correct the trajectory of the vehicle even during an emergency braking, reducing the braking distance and allowing you to use maximum grip force under braking while driving. All wheels, even when the tires are worn and the asphalt wet, taking advantage of maximum grip strength. In case of emergency braking, it is very important to keep pressing the pedal hard without releasing the pressure when the ABS comes into action. The electronic system will distribute the pressure on the individual wheels in relation to grip. When driving long and steep descents, it is necessary to engage a low gear to avoid prolonged repeated use of the brake switch, causing them to overheat, leads to a decrease in braking efficiency. It should also be remembered that the braking action exerted by the engine is maximum if the first gear of the gearbox is engaged, and for greater traffic safety after washing the vehicle it is advisable to perform a braking test. To be sure that the presence of water inside the drums does not compromise the braking efficiency after an accident, if there is a risk of fire in the vehicle it is advisable to turn off the electrical panel. Turning the ignition keys, use the fire extinguisher or, failing that, you can use a wet blanket, sand or earth at the base of the flames to extinguish them. Some cars are equipped with an inertia switch which ensures greater safety, decreasing the risk of fire following an accident as it stops the flow of fuel to the engine. Also, for greater safety, the driver should avoid programming the satellite navigator while the vehicle is in motion and using the mobile phone without the aid of the speakerphone or headset. Furthermore, it may be advisable to use the air conditioner even in the winter period to hurry up quickly. The windscreen, for better visibility, while it is not recommended to place objects under the driver's seat to prevent them slipping while driving and hindering the movements of the car. When transporting children, we must remember to insert the safety device that prevents the doors from being opened from inside the vehicle. Finally, while driving, we must pay particular attention to the content of the variable message panels that can also indicate prescriptive information of the type of obligation or prohibition.
concetto di aderenza e di forza aderente.
The concept of adherence and adherent force. The adherent force, by definition, is the force that allows the vehicle to move, opposing the slipping of the tires on the asphalt. The adhesion force is greater if the asphalt is dry and clean. Even more favored when it comes to rough asphalt. The grip strength also depends on the correct tire pressure. On the other hand, factors such as the presence of oil on the road, wet asphalt, or covered by leaves or ice contribute to the decrease in grip strength and the consequent possibility of serious accidents, so those who drive a motorcycle must pay particular attention and consider that the grip decreases on the rails of the trams, especially in case of rain and on road markings. When the signage strips are subjected to a force that tends to move it outwards. And this is where the adhering force opposes the vehicle sliding both in and out of the curve, keeping the vehicle on the desired trajectory because it does not allow the tire to skid on the asphalt. The adhering force depends on the value of the coefficient of adhesion which, if it is low, limits the speed at which it is possible to travel a curve in safety as it favors slippage when cornering, and in general, there is a risk of skidding when traveling a curve at high speed. A low coefficient of grip makes hard braking dangerous as it increases the braking distance. So it is important to reduce the speed. In that case, we are very careful in the quizzes. So far, we have talked about slippage due to low grip and grip coefficient. Now let's talk about overturning when cornering. Vehicle overturning when cornering is favored by a high or unstable load and by high speed. In addition, the overturned force when cornering is favored by a radius of curvature of the road.